Have you ever stopped to think about what would happen if suddenly the greatest pillar of your life, that person you trust, who promises to be by your side, who is the basis of all your emotional security, became the source of your greatest pain? Did you imagine that this person was capable of something so unthinkable that it would forever change the way you see the world around you? Now imagine living this nightmare. Dona Jucélia faced something that seemed unimaginable. The man to whom she gave her heart, her future, and the raising of her children was responsible for the greatest betrayal she could have suffered. The husband who swore to love her, protect her, and take care of her family not only disappointed her, but betrayed her in a way so brutal that words can't even describe the pain. Antonio, her husband, was not only the love of her life, but the person she believed to be her greatest ally in the education and care of her children. With him, she imagined building a safe and happy life for her family. They shared dreams, joys, and even difficulties. But when the worst happened, reality proved cruelly different. Imagine what it must have been like for Dona Jucélia to discover, devastatingly, that the man she trusted so deeply had sold her children, not because of any mistake, not because of a misunderstanding, but because of a conscious and calculated choice. The man she thought was the pillar of her family was, in fact, the one who destroyed everything she loved most. This is the scenario of Dona Jucélia's life. A mother who, instead of being supported by her partner, was betrayed so deeply that her world collapsed in an instant. What makes a man make such a heartless decision? What makes a person give up everything they have most precious for greed or vested interests? And how do you react when you find yourself in such a huge nightmare, in which you can no longer trust the people in your own home? How can a mother recover from the loss of everything she thought was safe? And what will she do to fight for the children who were ripped away from her, literally, by her own husband? Get ready to embark on this journey of pain, overcoming, and courage. Get ready to live a true story, where what seemed like the end is just the beginning of a relentless struggle, where a mother's unconditional love challenges the unthinkable. The twists and turns of this story will engage you and make you wonder, what would your reaction be if something like this happened to you? Dona Jucélia was a simple woman, but with a huge heart, like any dedicated mother. Growing up in a humble family, she always had the values of hard work, honesty, and family love as unshakable pillars in her life. Married to Antonio, a man who, at first glance, seemed to be everything she ever dreamed of. Protective, careful, and always willing to work to ensure the family's well-being. Together they raised 2 children, still young, but already full of dreams and plans for the future. Their days were simple, but filled with small moments that, for them, meant the world. Laughter around the dinner table, afternoons of playing in the backyard, and of course, the constant promise that they would always be together no matter what happened. It was the kind of life that many would consider perfect, peaceful, safe, with a promising future ahead. Antonio, in particular, was seen as the pillar of the family. His image as a hard-working man dedicated to his wife and children was impeccable. Deep down, Dona Jucélia felt blind trust in him. Together they planned the future. They talked about the achievements that would come, their own home, family trips, their children's education, and how everything they were building would be the basis of a comfortable life full of love. Nothing could break the harmony of that home. But as in so many stories that begin with promises of happiness, this tranquility would soon reveal itself to be a facade, a scenario carefully put together to hide the pain that was about to emerge. The full trust that Dona Jucélia placed in Antonio seemed solid, but as so often happens, what seemed perfect was just an illusion that was about to crumble. As the months passed, Dona Jucélia noticed small changes in Antonio's behavior. Nothing that was alarming at first glance, just subtle changes in mood or more distant attitudes. But the dedicated mother that she was, always attentive to details, began to question whether her husband was still so present and committed to the plans they had made. However, as so often happens when the pain is still a distant shadow, she chose to ignore the signs, trusting that perhaps it was just the stress of work or some temporary problem. But what Dona Jucélia didn't know was that perfect relationship was about to fall apart in a devastating and irreversible way. The husband she saw as her anchor and the devoted father of her children had, in secret, made a decision that would destroy all trust and stability in the family. What seemed to be the dream of a normal life, full of plans and love, would soon turn into the cruelest nightmare of his existence. The illusion of a peaceful life, without major surprises or traumas, was shattered with the force of lightning. What was to come would change everything forever, and Dona Jucélia would then need to rebuild her life from the pieces that remained, from this unthinkable betrayal. But how could someone who promised to protect her and build a future together so deeply betray her trust? What led Antonio to make such a destructive decision for his family? And more importantly, how would such a strong woman like Dona Jucélia react when her life was turned upside down in such a brutal way? It was an ordinary morning, like any other. Dona Jucélia got up early, as always, to prepare breakfast and make sure her children were ready for school. Antonio was still sleeping, and she, in the midst of the day's routine, decided to do a quick tidy up in his office, organizing the papers and documents that were spread out on the table. A simple, almost automatic gesture that would never have led her to imagine what she was about to discover. That's when his eyes fell on a folded note, hidden among some papers. Initially, it seemed like just another message or something of little importance, but something in the note gave her pause. Maybe it was the way it was hidden, as if it had been placed there carefully, not to be found. Curious and suspicious, Dona Jucélia slowly opened it. As she read it, her eyes quickly passed over the words, and reality, like a blow from a hammer, imposed itself before her. The note was full of details that Dona Jucélia would never have imagined she would read. Antonio, her husband, had sold his children. Not in exchange for immediate money, nor out of a desperate need for resources, but as a negotiation, a macabre bargain, as if children were commodities to be exchanged for some kind of benefit. It wasn't a simple situation like a mistake, a debt, or an impulsive choice. No, it was something calculated, planned, and the discovery of it was as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Dona Jucélia felt the air escape from her lungs. The initial pain was followed by a whirlwind of feelings she had never imagined possible. Perplexity, disbelief, anger, and a deep sense of betrayal seeped through his veins. How was this possible? How could someone she loved, who had promised to be by her side forever, do something so inhumane and unthinkable? How could he so coldly negotiate his own children as if they were objects? Dona Jucélia's mind, like a machine, began to slowly process each word written in that note. The information spread like fragments of a cruel puzzle that she never imagined she would need to put together. Antonio, her husband, had not only been involved in something so repulsive, but had gone so far as to sell their children, placing them at the mercy of strangers, likely to be exploited, or worse. And the most painful thing, he had done it hidden from her, in a dark secret that deprived her of any chance of preventing what was happening. Dona Jucélia found herself devastated, helpless, questioning every moment of the life she spent with Antonio. She remembered so many promises he had made. Promises of protection, of care, of being by her side, no matter the circumstances. And now, she found herself alone, trying to understand how the person she trusted most could have betrayed that trust in such a grotesque way. The pain of this discovery was indescribable, but the emptiness that formed inside Dona Jucélia was greater than any emotion she felt. She couldn't even understand how she had gotten to this point. How could her husband, the man who promised to be by her side at all times, be capable of something so cruel, such a profound betrayal? The reality that her children had been taken from her in such a cold and calculated way set in relentlessly. The question that couldn't come out of his head was the simplest and at the same time the most painful. Why? What would have led Antonio to do this? And most importantly, how could he live with this secret? How could he look at his children, look at her, and carry on with this lie, knowing he was destroying everything she loved most? And there, at that moment, Dona Jucélia knew that her life would never be the same again. What was to come would be so much more than she ever imagined she would be able to face. She would need to find strength within herself. Strength she didn't even know she had, to seek out her children and fight an unexpected enemy, the man she loved. With the truth finally revealed, Dona Jucélia found herself in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The initial shock was so profound that it felt like the air had disappeared from his lungs. She was lost, not knowing where to start. How could someone do something so terrible? And worst of all, how could she deal with the fact that the person responsible for her pain, for her anguish, was someone she knew, loved and respected deeply, her own husband? Dona Jucélia's mind was spinning in circles. How to rescue your children? Where were they? The question rang incessantly in his head, but the answer didn't come. Antonio, the man she believed to be the pillar of her life, was now the enemy she needed to face. He, who had betrayed her in such a horrible way, also became the biggest obstacle in her journey to recovering her children. How could she fight someone she knew so well, someone with whom she had shared the best and worst moments of her life? In the first few days after the discovery, the pain was overwhelming. Dona Jucélia felt helpless, paralyzed by the magnitude of the betrayal and the uncertainty about what to do next. But then, a flame of determination began to ignite within her. She knew that no matter how difficult it was, she needed to act. He wouldn't give in to the pain. She couldn't allow herself to be consumed by hopelessness. Her children, the beings she had raised with so much love and sacrifice, needed her, and she would do whatever it took to bring them back. Dona Jucélia began her search with fierce determination. Every clue she managed to discover about her children's whereabouts was a ray of hope, but also a new fear. What else would she find out about what Antonio had done? What else had been hidden? Each step she took brought her closer to the truth, but with each new step, she felt the weight of pain increase. What was scarier? What she already knew, or what she could still discover? She began to search every corner of the house, reviewing every conversation, every message, and even the files on Antonio's computer. He, who until then seemed to be the trustworthy and protective man, now revealed himself to be a stranger, someone she could no longer trust. It was in this frantic search that she found some clues that led her to Antonio's first contacts with those who had bought his children. With each new name and location that emerged, Dona Jucélia's despair only increased. She knew she was in unfamiliar territory, where everything seemed uncertain. but she also knew there was no going back. But what distressed her most were not the clues, nor the veiled threats that were beginning to emerge, but what it meant for her emotionally. How could she forgive someone who had betrayed her like that? How could she look at the children she rescued and make sure they were okay, when she herself felt torn apart inside? Dona Jucélia faced the dilemma of pain that transcends the physical, a pain in her heart that extended to each decision made, each step taken. Her fight was much more than simply rescuing her children. She needed to regain her own dignity, restore the trust that had been broken, and perhaps at some point, find a path to healing. But in the meantime, she didn't have time for that. The clock was ticking, and for Dona Jucélia, every second was precious. Her children needed her now, more than ever. With courage and tenacity, she sought help, spoke to friends, family, and even lawyers, looking for the best way to act. The pain of betrayal was immense, but the strength of a mother's love was even greater. She would not let herself be defeated. She would not give in to suffering. Each new obstacle was a challenge. But Dona Jucélia knew that the only way to overcome this crisis was to fight, not only for the rights of her children, but for the recovery of the family she dreamed of rebuilding. And so, with courage, she moved forward, facing the fear, exhaustion, and pain, and every day closer to bringing her children back. But what awaited her ahead, once again, could be even more devastating. What Antonio had done was just the beginning of a much bigger story, and Dona Jucélia knew that she would have to face not only the demons of the past, but also the consequences of a betrayal that, so great, seemed to have no end. With a broken heart, but with a determined soul, Dona Jucélia knew she could not face this fight alone. The feeling of being trapped in a maze with no way out haunted her, but she wouldn't give up. It was with a mix of courage and desperation that she sought help from the police, believing that, with the support of the authorities, she would finally be able to bring her children back. However, the reality of justice was much more difficult than she imagined. Upon arriving at the police station and explaining the situation, Dona Jucélia was met with a cold and bureaucratic reception. The police officers did not seem to understand the seriousness of the situation. The words of a mother desperate for her children were received with skepticism, and the case was treated with the same distance as many others that passed through the hands of security professionals on a daily basis. Selling children. This is complicated, ma'am. Let's see what we can do, they told her with a coldness that cut off her hope. What for her was unbearable suffering. For many there, it seemed to be just another occurrence, a complaint that would require a lot of work and might not be of great importance amid the flood of other cases. Dona Jucélia didn't know what was more painful, Antonio's betrayal, or the fact that even the bodies responsible for protecting citizens seemed not to understand the urgency of her request. She felt invisible, as if the pain that consumed her was irrelevant in the eyes of those who could help her. The initial police response was devastating. She wasn't getting the support she needed. However, she was not just any woman. Dona Jucélia would not allow herself to be put off by this lack of understanding. She knew that her children depended on her, and this drove her to move forward, even in the face of obstacles. As the days passed, his frustration was transformed into action. Dona Jucélia began to make more and more efforts to gather evidence that could convince the police of the seriousness of her case. Over time, she began to approach some people who could help her, such as lawyers and other community members who were willing to fight for her. She knew that every new document, every conversation with witnesses, and every new clue could be the key to finally making the case gain traction. She had to go out of her way to get the right contacts, chase information, and even act in a disguised manner without drawing attention to herself. To her, every move felt like a battle within a war that had no end. And while the pain still burned deep within her, the determination for justice grew stronger with each step. But as in any story of overcoming, the difficulties did not stop there. Dona Jucélia found herself faced with difficult situations that tested her in ways she had never imagined. Every time she thought she was close to a solution, new obstacles appeared. Evidence that seemed to be lost, false information that made her lose her way, and even subtle threats from people involved. In selling her children, the battle became more and more dangerous, and even more painful were the moments when she felt the weight of doubt about the justice system itself. Did the police really care? Could she really bring her children back, or would this be another neglected case? A mother forgotten in her grief? However, in the midst of so much adversity, Dona Jucélia did not waver. Every step she took, every new document she managed to gather, meant another opportunity to move forward, another step towards the truth. The search for her children, which seemed so desperate at first, now turned into an arduous but possible path. She knew the process would be long, difficult, and full of obstacles, but there was no turning back. Her search for justice was just beginning, and with each passing day, Dona Jucélia became firmer, more determined. She knew that the challenges were many, but the strength of her fight was even greater. Now, more than ever, she understood that the real battle was not just against Antonio's betrayal, but against a system that often turned a blind eye to the victim's suffering. But Dona Jucélia was determined. She would not be silenced, and nothing would stop her from recovering her children and giving back to them what had been taken from them. The fight was just beginning, and victory, although distant, was within reach of his strength and determination. After months of exhaustive investigation, sleepless nights, and a constant fight against the shadows of the unknown, the truth finally began to emerge. Dona Jucélia had taken every possible path, talked to people, consulted lawyers, and even risked getting involved in dangerous circles, all in search of a clue that would lead her to her children. And then, information finally came to light. But as always, nothing could prepare her for what she was about to discover. Dona Jucélia's children had not only been sold as merchandise, the worst was to come. They were handed over to people who, in essence, did not have the slightest ability to offer love, care, or any type of true protection. Dona Jucélia knew that, with the type of people who had bought her children's lives would not be a safe field. It would not be an environment where they could grow up with dignity and affection. The idea of her children being taken to unknown places with people who had dark and unknown intentions left her heart devastated. Every day, not knowing what condition her children were in was a constant nightmare. The anguish of not being able to touch them, hug them, comfort them, consumed his soul. Dona Jucélia imagined the darkest scenarios. Her children being mistreated, suffering, being used for purposes that she would never have the courage to describe in words. And in the meantime, she found herself powerless, once again, like a mother who could do nothing to save her children from such a cruel situation. The pain that accompanied her at every step of her search was now an unbearable anguish, as if time was standing still. Each second dragged on as if it were an eternity, and Dona Jucélia knew she needed to act quickly. The fear of losing her children forever consumed her. She could not allow them to grow up in a world without love, in a world where care and safety were beyond reach. The truth she now faced was more brutal than any emotional pain she could have imagined. Her children's fate was not just a matter of being separated from them. It was a matter of saving them from a future she would never have wanted for anyone. Least of all, the children she loved unconditionally. Dona Jucélia could not bear the idea of seeing them living without the certainty that they would be protected, without the guarantee that they would be treated with the affection and respect that every human being deserves. And with each new discovery about the whereabouts of her children, Dona Jucélia felt the weight of pressure increase. She knew she had little time to reverse the situation, to rescue her children from this unsustainable situation. More than ever, the sense of urgency was palpable, as if the clock was ticking against her. But the pain didn't make her falter. On the contrary, it made her stronger, more determined. Dona Jucélia would not rest until she had her children back. That was a promise, and she would do everything possible to fulfill it. As the pieces of the puzzle slowly fell into place, she came closer to an even more disturbing truth: the involvement of powerful and influential people in child trafficking. Now, Dona Jucélia was not just facing her husband's betrayal, but an entire network of corruption and inhumanity that threatened to swallow everything she loved. But even in the face of this terrifying reality, she knew that the battle was far from lost. The search for her children, although filled with suffering, was also filled with unwavering strength. She knew that no matter how hard it was, she would be able to bring her children back home where they belonged. The anguish of not knowing where her children were and how they were compelled her to continue. And while the world around her seemed to fall apart, Dona Jucélia stood firm, without allowing fear and pain to paralyze her. She was ready to face anything, any obstacle, any threat, because at the end of the day, what she was seeking was the purest of possessions, the life, safety, and future of her children. And as impossible as it seemed, she knew that the fight was just beginning. After months of uncertainty, sleepless nights, and a relentless fight against forces much greater than she could imagine, Dona Jucélia finally achieved what seemed impossible: the rescue of their children. The moment was indescribable, a mix of relief, emotion, and the feeling that finally she had won a battle that seemed endless. Her children were back in her arms, safe, and she felt like she could breathe again. But even in this moment of victory, the pain of loss still accompanied her. They had been taken from her, sold as merchandise, and nothing could erase this cruel mark on the family's life. The experience of seeing her children ripped from her life in such a brutal way left deep wounds, both in her and in them. It was not possible to forget what had happened, and the pain of separation was still very fresh. The rescue of her children was, without a doubt, a fundamental step towards rebuilding the lives of Dona Jucélia and her family. But it was also the beginning of a new process, the healing process. Each of them would need time to overcome the trauma they experienced, and Dona Jucélia, as a mother, knew that her mission now would be to give them the love, security, and protection that had been taken from them. Life would never be the same, but at least she would have her family together again. Dona Jucélia's journey was not just a fight for the recovery of her children, but a fight for her own dignity. Throughout her battle, she had to face not only her husband's abandonment and betrayal, but also the doubt and disbelief of a system that was slow to understand the depth of a mother's pain. Along this path, Dona Jucélia became stronger, more determined, and showed the world that no matter how difficult life was, a mother's love is an unbeatable force. She did not give in to suffering. She did not give in to despair. And she moved forward with courage, because she knew that her children needed her more than ever. Today, Dona Jucélia is an example of perseverance, a woman who faced the pain of betrayal, loss, and injustice, but never gave up fighting for her family. Her story is a powerful reminder that no matter how helpless circumstances may be, inner strength can carry us through. She teaches us that even when everything seems lost, hope should never be abandoned. Have you ever faced a situation where trust was irreparably broken? How would you react when faced with a challenge as difficult as Dona Jucélia's? Comment below and share your opinions. Your story can also inspire others. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so that more people know this exciting and true story. She teaches us the importance of unconditional love and fighting for our loved ones, even in the face of the greatest challenges. Dona Jucélia's suffering may seem unbearable, but she proves to us that even in the most intense adversity, we can find the strength to continue fighting. And you, will you continue fighting for your causes?